Okay, well, the communities of the future are going to be so different simply because the consciousness is very different. Remember, in the golden future, people will only do what gives them soul satisfaction. In the new consciousness, people will absolutely feel they can join in, and the people playing the game will automatically, heart-centeredly welcome them in.
Why has there been this great influx of souls that decided to come down to Earth for the free will experiment?
This is the end of a cosmic era. We're moving into something totally new, unexpected, that nobody has ever experienced before. But during the period that we've gone through, people have created karma. All the karma has to be completed by 2032.
And what happens when we move past that threshold of 2032 and the karma's resolved?
What will happen is that you've got people living in harmony, in peace, in health, soul satisfaction.
Diana Cooper, welcome on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
It's the same thing. What's happening in my life is the world. It's absolutely incredible how the frequency has risen beyond anything that was ever expected. And the Intergalactic Council had to take time out recently to discuss what is happening on Earth, because it's beyond anything that has ever been expected. And so many light workers are now moving into the 6th and 7th dimension. Even in the golden era of Atlantis, they couldn't maintain a physical body and held the 6th dimensional and 7th dimensional frequency while in a body. And now, for the first time ever on this planet, this is happening. If that isn't awesome, I don't know what is. And this has taken the Intergalactic Council by surprise. And as you know, all the planets are aligning behind this and sending light codes into Earth to help the planet move to even higher frequencies. I was just told this week that we've been moving towards a 5th dimensional world. And now Earth has the possibility of moving into a 6th and 7th dimensional planet. This was not part of the divine plan. This is something that we on Earth as humans have co-created. And it's beyond exciting. It's incredible.
Wow.
I'm sure you know this, but at the end of Atlantis, the end of the 260,000-year cosmic era of Atlantis was 2012. And so it fell 10,000 years beforehand. And so there was an experiment then. What were they going to do with this 10,000 years left of the cosmic era? And what they decided on was an experiment to see what happened if the masculine took control. So our planet has been ruled by masculine energy without the mitigating and softening influence of the divine feminine. And we've seen what's happened. It's resulted in schisms and wars and things we don't want to talk about. And now at last, everything is starting to shift as the divine feminine is coming in. We're coming into balance. And so we are about to enter a new golden age. Now, the end of the Atlantis was 2012. Now, that was not just for this planet, this universe, it was all the universes. And at that moment, the cosmic moment in 2012, source energy touched the hearts of every sentient being throughout the universes. And that set in motion a 20-year shift everywhere. And so Earth had to move from the 3rd dimension to the 5th dimension in 20 years. By 2032, we must be ready. However, all the other planets were already 4th dimensional and only had to move up 1 dimension. Earth had lagged behind. The reason Earth had lagged behind was twofold. One, we're the solar plexus of the universe, our planet, and so we've taken in all the fear of all the universes and processed it through Earth. But more important, when the clarion call went out for a planet to take on the experiment of free will, there was only one place that was willing to do so, and that was Earth. This is why people that incarnate on Earth are considered great spiritual warriors. And when you travel in the universe, people say, "What? You've been to Earth. It is so difficult, so challenging, and so special." So Earth had a double dimensional shift to do. And that's why we've received so much help from the universe. That's why this is such an important and incredible time to incarnate. There has never, ever been a time like this for spiritual growth, spiritual opportunity, and for people to move into a much higher frequency. In fact, this period is heralding the new golden age, but it's a new civilization that is taking place on Earth. And everything is going to be so much better beyond our wildest expectations once the new golden age has really settled in. It starts in 2032, but by 2050, our planet will be so indescribably different that we will hardly recognize it. Mm. We are very blessed to be here right now, despite all the challenges.
Beautifully said. And you brought up Atlantis a few times there. And, you know, in your teachings, you talk about how Atlantis, you know, had a time period of, you know, almost hundreds of thousands of years, but they had this golden time frame of about 1,500 years where the consciousness was the highest it's ever been, and humanity was at a 5th dimensional frequency, but they were still living on a 3rd dimensional planet. That's now right. We're headed into a 5th dimensional planet, and we're also going to be able to be 5th dimensional as well. Yes. So what is the significance of that if we boil it down?
Well, in Golden Atlantis, the people were all totally contented, totally happy. They did what gave them soul satisfaction. That's part of being in the 5th dimension. But they also had awesome gifts and talents. They could do things that we simply cannot recognize or conceive of now. We will be doing all of those things and living in that peace and harmony, and have much more of the talents and the cosmic energies than they possibly ever had in Golden Atlantis. So it is quite extraordinary what people incarnating now are going to experience in their lifetimes. We are the heralds of the new. We're the ones, or your generation are the ones that are bringing this forward for everybody.
And you mentioned that we were, in a way, predestined to make that double dimensional shift from the 3rd to the 5th.
Yeah.
But something happened that now, as you were saying before, there's larger possibilities for us. Yes. What does that say about the resilience and the potential of humanity and Gaia and the Earth herself to be able to make such a quantum leap in things that, you know, the other planets and galactic councils didn't expect of us?
Well, I think it's about free choice, free will, and the fact that people were willing and opened their hearts in this totally, totally unexpected way, and have taken things forward as I say, it's quite extraordinary. And this is only just happening. Pluto came in 2022. And that's what allowed things to start changing. And so the influence of Saturn has moved away, and that was about the discipline and the keeping everything in order. And now Jupiter is coming in, and that's allowing expansion, abundance. And as people then open their hearts and start opening portals to the planets, both physically and just by making the connections, then we receive the light codes. As soon as we start to receive the light codes, which are packets of energy, which the planets send down to us. So, for example, if you're connecting to Jupiter, and the ascended aspect of Jupiter is Jumbe, so which is interesting, Jumbo the elephant, so they knew these things years ago. And so if you're making that connection, you receive a packet of energy containing light codes. And they're not much use to you, except that you've got them in your body ready until they're activated. Now, as soon as they're activated, then you literally change at the deepest level, and you can do things and think things and remember things that you could never do before. So it's fascinating, because this is how my guide explained it to me. So you've got this packet of codes. What does it mean? He said, well, it's like an alphabet. So you might have the letters of the alphabet, but they're no use to you until you learn how to use them. That learning how to use them is the activation. Then you've got an alphabet that you can read, and you can start to write. And then you open up to a whole new world. And if you take that with all the planets that are connected with us and the light codes that they are sending through, it's totally awesome. Just taking in, say, the light codes from Andromeda, the higher heart of the universe, what that's bringing in for the golden future is codes of rejuvenation. And so people already are starting to call in the codes of rejuvenation so that they can literally change their whole bodies. It goes into every cell in your body. So the kids now in the golden future are going to be able to do things, run faster, jump higher, be healthier, be stronger in a way that at the moment we just can't imagine. We currently focus on healing and illness. We, in our country, we basically have an illness service. And it's not going to be like that. It's going to be a health and well-being service. Like in the golden era of Atlantis, they just had a small place that you went to for balancing from time to time. And your chakras were rebalanced and realigned, so that if you were not healthy in any way, you just went through a rebalancing. Well, that will be one of the many things that will come in the future. And so people will stay at this optimum health. And of course, we will have helped the soil. The soil will once more be nutritious. The poor old soil, which is basically what is feeding our body, has been so depleted, so poisoned, and then we're expected to thrive on that. That's not possible. The soil will be purified and deeply nutritious again. The water will be purified, so we're taking in clear, pure water. And of course, the Christ light, which is the energy of source love, is flowing through the water all the time. So if you're taking in pure water, then you've got the Christ light flowing through it. And that has 7 levels. There are 7 rays of Christ light. Christ light is an energy of pure source love. It leaves source at a 12th dimensional frequency, and then it goes through different planets, and each one acts as a transformer and adds a different energy to it. So you've got the gold ray of Christ, which is the 7th dimensional frequency one, and which is the one that most people know of. And that brings in healing and protection and love. And that comes down through Sirius. So Sirius acts as a transformer. And then you've got the blue ray of Christ that goes through the Pleiades, adds healing energy. And so that comes into your body at an 11th dimensional, no, that's a 9th dimensional frequency. And so that touches every cell in your body with that frequency. And so there are the 7 different ones that come in. Like the white one comes through Lyra, and that cleanses, purifies, and raises the frequency of every cell in your body. So each one makes a difference. And until last year, we were only able to receive the gold ray, but now we can receive all the other rays as well and bring them in, and they flow through our bodies, helping to heal us, helping to keep us young. The violet ray that comes through the Milky Way, that literally transmutes lower energies in your cells and then adds the pure source love to it. So these energies were only available very, very recently, literally a year ago. And new ones are coming in all the time. Yeah. It's totally, totally awesome what's happening right now for our planet and for humanity. It's no wonder we've gone way beyond expectations, because the possibilities have become so much greater.
And it also confirms how much help we're receiving on all ends of the spectrum. And, you were mentioning also in some of your teachings that there have been 5 masters that have agreed to step in and give us the qualities that will enable us to start moving forward into these higher dimensions, starting from Saint Germain, Merlin, and some others. So I would love to touch upon briefly on connecting with these masters that are here to assist us, because they've also lived human experiences as ascended masters. So Absolutely. What can you tell us about them?
Well, there are many, many, not just those 5, but Saint Germain. I think most people know Saint Germain. He's mighty. And the interesting thing, one of his aspects is Merlin. And Merlin is everywhere at the moment. Everyone I talk to says, oh yes, Merlin's been in to see me. Merlin's been coming to talk to me. And he is coming in this incredible electric blue and platinum silver light, and literally changing people and helping them to bring forward their gifts and talents that have been hidden. And what he said to me was that he worked through the higher heart. So that, as soon as he said that, because I thought, Merlin, magic, but no, he said, no, I work through the higher heart, and my work is to bring everything in for the highest good of humanity and start shifting the energy. He is leading the golden stream of light workers that has only formed in the last, it's only been about 6 weeks, that this golden stream of light workers, which is those who are in the 6th and 7th dimension, joining together, merging together, acting as one, and flowing not just around this planet and starting to heal it. One of the things they do is heal the aura of our planet. And I know that when I merge with them each day, I send them to all the places where our planet is disrupted, where there are horrible things happening. Because, as you know, if your aura is in any place disrupted, if you can soothe it and heal it, that actually helps what's going on inside. And so that is taking place as light workers are joining the golden stream of energy and helping our planet and the universe. It's a little bit like the Lemurian energy. The Lemurian energy was this high frequency healing light, and it was almost like a cloud of energy that went round and touched places in the universe that needed it. And so that is very much coming forward now. The golden stream of energy is acting in a similar way. And it's the people participating are the people from Earth who are in the 6th and 7th dimension, who are actually helping the whole universe and our planet. It's awesome. Can I say a little bit about the Lemurians, as we've just touched on that? Now, the Lemurians weren't physicalized, and they started as this energy, basically, that went everywhere, but they so loved the universe, and particularly Earth, so connected with nature, so loved nature. And back then, that Lemuria was the 260,000 year cosmic era before Atlantis. So we are, in terms of time, talking a long time ago. But they even then knew that Earth was going to need their help in the period between 2012 and 2032. And so that's when they created the Lemurian crystals. What they did was they took energy from the auras of different planets, from Source, from Earth itself, and then with the help of the dragons, they poured that energy into seams in Earth, where it became a crystalline formation. And those are the healing crystals that people are now using and that are so powerful. And the Lemurian energy, the power of it is that when people join in a group, that's when the energy switches on. You have to do it without ego, without any thought for self, and because it won't switch on if you are doing it for any reason other than the highest possible good. And then you can send that energy out through the crystals, and it does magical healing. Fabulous healing.
There's one concept that I also really found fascinating, which is as we're raising our frequency, we're allowing ourselves, our human selves, to merge with the monad. And the monad, I've heard it sprinkled out here and there in many other ancient texts. But what does that mean really in the significance of what we're going through, to merge with the monad?
Okay. In October 22, I was asked to do a workshop, Merge with Your Monad. And I was told to do it in Portugal, and we sent it out all over the world in lots and lots of different languages. And I had no idea then of the importance and power of it. So your monad is your I am presence, the highest aspect of you. Oh, before I forget, ever since that October, I have put an updated version free on my YouTube each month. Every single person that's been doing that consistently is now 6th dimensional or 7th dimensional. It's really, really powerful. And it's been a journey taking people up. So let me explain what the monad is for anyone who doesn't know. If you imagine a grandparent, and that grandparent sends out his 12 sons, daughters, round the earth to experience and gather energy and bring that back to the family house to share with the grandparents. And then those 12 sons, daughters, they each have 12 sons and daughters, and they send them out to experience and learn, etc., so that they will come back to the parents' house and then back to the grandparents' house. Those grandparents are the equivalent of the monad. The sons and daughters that are sent out are souls or higher selves. And then the 144 that have gone out from them are the personalities on Earth. So you belong to a monad, and you may have other parts of your soul incarnated on Earth or of your monad incarnated on Earth. You might find one of them is in Orion, one is in Saturn, one is in between incarnations, one is in another universe. So they're all spread out. But what's happening now, and again, this is only recently, is that the energies are coming in to allow us to connect with, telepathically with, other parts of our monad, even though we don't know consciously that we're doing it. But this is helping us to feel safe and at home and together, like our limbs are all being returned to us, all aspects of us are being returned. So then we can hold our frequency much higher, more easily.
And because all these different aspects of ourselves are coming and returning to us, what does that do to the knowledge, the gifts, the talents that begin to start awakening within us when we integrate all those other aspects of ourselves?
It means that we can start to use them. You know, it's quite interesting because there are a lot of people on Earth now that have actually got their 12 strands of DNA activated, but they're not using them. They're not using those gifts because they don't believe they can. And it's a case of just switching it and shifting the belief, and a lot of people will start to have the telepathy, the clairvoyance, the ability to move things, telekinesis, all these things are going to start to return to us. And when we're all fifth dimensional, then everything is going to be very different. Already we are starting to build our crystalline bodies and crystalline brains. Imagine what it's going to do for education for kids. They're at school. The current system throughout the entire world, as we know, is breaking down. It has not been created for the highest good of the children. And children themselves are resisting and refusing to go to school. And as I understand it, this is taking place everywhere. And this is because it's not right for them. And the new children coming in who have got differently configured neural pathways are not tolerating it any longer. And they're saying, no, this is not right. So the new schools will be much smaller, not going to have these vast places where a soul is lost because it's so huge. So they're going to be much smaller, and the learnings are going to be individually tailored for the child, not just a mass blanket. They're not going to be all left brain like they are at the moment. It's going to be much more right brain teaching. There's going to be much more emphasis on social understanding, on empathy. Now, in Atlantis, every child in the golden era, every child had a dog and a cat and a rabbit. And the dog went to school with the child. And that was expected and normal. The dog was the child's protector and companion. That's what they incarnate for. And every child, every household had a cat, and that cat is the watcher of energies, making sure that everything's all right and safe. And of course, cats still do that. That's their role. And the big cats, like the tigers and the lions, they are the watchers of the energy for the planet. But that has been so depleted. And by 2012, I think it was 2% that they were effective. And now it's risen much, much more. I'm not sure exactly what the percentage is at this minute, but it's vastly risen and will continue to do so because we're accepting it. And every child had a rabbit, and the rabbit was the heart healer. And so it carried the divine feminine energies. And so the child came home and could cuddle their rabbit. But part of the thinking at that time was that every child then had to learn to tune into the needs of another creature and look after them and take care of them. So they weren't just thinking about themselves, they were thinking about something outside themselves. And this energy of understanding, empathy, caring, compassion is part of what will be taught in the schools of the future. Now, the other thing that's coming in is that as people move into the sixth dimension, their crystalline brain is developing. So we carry a certain amount of light. In the third dimension, we can't carry that much light. In the fifth dimension, we need to be able to carry more. And so as we move higher, we have to let go of our carbon-based bodies and create crystalline-based bodies. And now your crystalline based body is specifically designed to carry more light, but also to carry the higher frequencies and the qualities and gifts of the future. The crystalline brain, which is already starting, you know, some of the people that are complaining of brain fog, etc., their crystalline brains are starting to come into play. Now, others just need to ask Archangel Gabriel to help them with that particular level of their third eye. But for many, it's that they are starting to build their crystalline brain. So your crystalline brain has the qualities of crystals. So if you think of a computer, it is operated with crystals, crystal memory, crystal storage, crystal ability to connect with other laptops and computers. All of these will be actually inside us. So we will all be able to connect in these ways without using a computer. So for kids, they don't need to have this left brain information pumped into them because they can access it. Now, they can't just access anything. They can they will be able to access what they need. And that's how it will work in the future when the new schools come in. And when I'm talking about the future, it's very soon. Things are changing so rapidly, unbelievably quickly. And people will travel in their seventh dimensional Merkaba, their light body. It'll be very different.
It's so interesting because you said 2032. That's 6.5 years from now. And one of the quotes that I loved in your book, The Golden Future, which you have there behind you, is when you energize the predictions for the golden future, you are manifesting the new world in the best possible way. So I'd also love to, and we're already doing this in the conversation, but energizing those visions of a golden future. What else is coming? We talked about the education. Another thing that I know you're really passionate about is the alternative ways of living, community-based living. What have you received around that? Hello, beautiful family. Quick one today. I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed to this channel. Your subscription means more than you know. Even though it's free, what you're doing is you're empowering a whole channel to be able to do this every single day and continue showing up in the way that we can with all of our resources on hand. Thank you for contributing to the growth of this channel, for sharing it with the people that you love, for creating a conscious movement of individuals that are seeking the sovereignty and the divinity of their soul. This is why we're here. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying this content, I invite you now to look below on that little button that says subscribe and welcome you properly to this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are and being pure love and radiating that with everyone that you see. Back to the episode.
Okay, well, the communities of the future are going to be so different simply because the consciousness is very different. Remember, in the golden future, people will only do what gives them soul satisfaction. All these jobs that people go to and think, oh, I've got to go to the office today, they will be gone. And people think that's a frightening thing, but not if you think you're living in an era when your needs are all met automatically because you draw in that abundance from the universe. This sounds weird to our current consciousness. So people will be, as soon as your Earth Star chakra is fully in, you start to move to the places where you're meant to be. You start to attract the people that you're meant to be with. And so in the communities of the golden future, they will be smaller, they will be more contained, and the people will be with their soul families. And so you will automatically feel belonging, loved, cared for. We're not going to have insurance and all of this stuff. That is part of the third dimension, because people will take care of each other. And people will, if somebody needs a house built, because houses will not be built in the same way, they will help each other to create it. And so everybody will be working together for the highest good. Because people feel safe and belonging and loved, at this moment, if you go into a park and there are people playing football, most people think, oh, well, I don't know them, I can't join in. In the new consciousness, people will absolutely feel they can join in, and the people playing the game will automatically, heart-centeredly welcome them in. So everybody feels welcome at all times, wherever they are. And there'll be so much more of this, because by then, or not maybe immediately, but soon after, we will be able to control the weather for the highest good. So that is using certain crystals and thought patterns to be able to make the weather be much better evenly throughout the world. And this means there'll be more outside. People will be much more creative, sport orientated than they are now. And so you'll have groups that want to do paint pictures, and it's going to be much more sociable than now. The people's consciousness is going to be much more oneness, togetherness operating. And so they will sit in groups to paint pictures, and somebody else will come along and think, I'd love to join them. And they will be heartily welcomed. So whatever you're doing, because in the new consciousness, in the fifth dimension, everyone's honest. Everybody can see auras. So you have to be honest, because everything is transparent. Nothing is hidden. So everyone's totally honest. So the community builder sports centre and all the rackets and all the things are just left there, because they know that anybody that uses them will take care of them and leave them there, because that's what total honesty and being able to see auras is all about. And so it's much, much more togetherness and community-minded, doing what's for the highest good within the community. People are telepathic, so they're able to send out messages to each other, greeting them. There is an energy of love. And though I'm saying that the communities are small and more contained, I think there'll be quite a blip with travel for a while, but then travel will be so much easier and we'll be able to go everywhere. But there won't be the boundaries and passports that there are now. Everybody will recognize oneness and so be able to go anywhere and be welcomed as part of that community for as long as they want to visit and experience. One of the things that's quite hard for people to understand is that when you're in that consciousness, your needs are met. So if you need a transport to get you somewhere, you just think transport, you go to your front door, and your transport arrives. Now,
Snap of a finger, you just...
Yeah, but that's a step beyond most people can understand now. But that is going to be happening soon after 2032, because that's where the consciousness is taking us. And so there won't, in the meantime, there's going to be challenges. And what those challenges give us is the opportunity to share. People will have to start sharing cars, start sharing transport, sharing journeys, because that is part of the step towards of the learning, towards where we're going, where we use our mind to create whatever we want. So if you want food delivered, you think about what you want and it comes to you. It's going to just change everything, because you're not going to have the worry, oh, will I have a job? Will I have enough money? Banks will have gone. All of those things that are third dimensional, that are controlling, that are pyramid powers, all of that will be swept away in the tide of the new consciousness coming in. And it means that people can focus on what their soul wants. In the meantime, the businesses that the universe supports are different. Up to now, the universe has supported focus, hard work, and getting there. And that's what has taken people forward into money and success and all those lower dimensional things that we've been living with for the last thousands of years. Now, the universe is going to start supporting, and is already supporting, businesses that give you soul satisfaction, that are creative and artistic. Right brain energy is going to be so much more understood and wanted and valued. Businesses that help children and animals, businesses that are for the highest good of the community, businesses that are cooperatives and sharing. All of those are going to be what are supported by the universe. So if you've got an idea that, well, it may be a technological idea, but it is for the highest good and it takes people forward, then that will be supported by the universe. And so there's going to be a big shift in what people feel, because they'll be doing what they want to do and what they love doing without the pressure. If you want to grow things, wow, that's fantastic. That'll be supported. Anything to do with nature, because it's been quite interesting. One of the things we've had to do recently in the monadic merge meditation is we've been asked what our planet needs to move forward. And what I've been told is that what we need is a love of nature, an understanding of nature again, because nature is the great healer. Nature is the grounder. Nature gives us everything we need for peace, for oneness, for health. It provides all our needs. And in the future, even more so, because I talked a little bit about the communities, but even the houses are going to be different, because at the moment we're using bricks and mortar and wood. We're going to be using plant materials that are extruded, can be beautiful colours, any shape, easily constructed, keep out the heat, keep in the warmth. Again, something that isn't contemplated now. And we give lip service to being ecological now. But we don't build houses in this country anyway, which have got water storage underneath. We don't have running water, bringing the Christ-like love into our communities. All of these things will be a part of what is built in the golden future. So that people will just feel contented and happier.
Yeah.
Food will be grown organically, but in a different way, and possibly in great big kind of storage houses, and where people can just go in and receive, take what they need. And because there's plenty, because everyone has abundance consciousness, no one takes more than they need, because you know that there's more. There's again a huge shift in the consciousness. And of course, the whole climate is changing.
Right.
This is not to do with what we've done. Some of it is. We've contributed. But from time to time, there have been ice ages. There have been, this has happened throughout history. And it's time for that. Now that's a cosmic influence that's coming in. So what's actually happening is that the the big areas, the ice caps, they're starting to melt as the climate gets warmer. And as they melt, the land underneath has been purified by the ice. So that's pure land. And that then is going to be available for the high frequency people to live on and walk on totally pure land. The water then is going around the planet, and it's going to flood so many of the big industrial cities that have been built on by the ocean, as nearly all of them are. So they will eventually be flooded. I mean, there won't be any London, there won't be any of Amsterdam or any of those places. They will all be flooded underwater because they are holding the old energy. So the new is emerging. I've already heard of new islands starting to emerge from the sea because they have been purified by the water. And so they're coming up, and they will, when they're desalinated, they will provide pure land for people to live on and build on in the future. And if you walk in a place where the land is pure, it's very different from walking in the middle of a city. People will then be supported by the earth.
You've also mentioned that the optimum population of Earth is 2 billion people, and that there's also this spiritual reason for why there's been a mass influx of souls. You know, right now we're approaching 9 billion. So I'm curious to know, from a spiritual perspective, why has there been this great influx of souls that decided to come down to Earth for the free will experiment? And what will happen with that in regards to the future?
Okay, so this is the end of a cosmic era. We're moving into something totally new, unexpected, that nobody has ever experienced before. But during the period that we've gone through, people have created karma. And if you have family karma, that lasts for 7 generations. Up to now, if your great-grandfather did something dreadful and didn't want to pay that karma himself, it had to pass on to his children, or if there were no children, cousins, etc. But they could say no. But we've reached end times. All the karma has to be completed by 2032. And so that's why there's been so much illness, just name it, all sorts of stuff going on. There's also many of the cancers, not all, I'm just saying some of them, are people have taken in, grown negativity inside them, they've taken it in from the whole universe, the planet, and then when that's cut out and passed over, that's been an offering to clear karma for many, many people. So that's been a soul offering on many parts that people just don't realize, and other illnesses. So there's that, but also there's the fact that this is this 20-year period of awesome opportunity, challenging, but awesome, that people want to experience. Wow, if you had the opportunity to go to a place where there was the greatest opportunity you'd ever have, ever for your soul to move forward, that's why they're wanting to come here now. So people have been petitioning to come to Earth for this particular period, to be here. So you've got wise old souls, masters coming in to help with the transition. You've got others coming in to experience. So it's an absolute melting pot of beings from all over the universe and universes to shift things now and get Earth from, as we've said already, to such an extent that it's exceeded anything that was ever expected of this planet. That's a result of all these people wanting to come and contribute now.
Wow. And what happens when we move past that threshold of 2032 when the karma's resolved, what happens to us at that stage of consciousness?
I'm sure it's not going to happen immediately. These things tend to take a bit of time, but what will happen is that you've got people living in harmony, in peace, in health, soul satisfaction, and Earth being a place where people want to come to fulfill their desires, to express their creativity, to learn about how their body can be stronger. The whole learning experience of Earth is going to shift, but it'll be beautiful. It'll be harmonious. It'll be people being happy in a way that isn't expected on Earth.
Do you feel there are future versions of us, of humanity, that are watching this current timeline that we're on right now? And, what do they hope that we will remember about ourselves and where we're headed?
Well, the business of timelines is very interesting, isn't it? Because there are so many. And at the same time, everything is one instant. And I always think of, if you're standing waiting for somebody to pick you up in their car, it's pouring with rain, the wind is lashing, you're miserable, they're late, time goes very slowly. If you're, on the other hand, you're as happy as anything, you're in love, you're doing something that's interesting, time goes in a flash. And all those racing timelines come together as one. As you climb the spiritual mountain, reach the top, it's all happening at the same instant. You can look from the top of the mountain and you can see all those timelines and what everybody's doing everywhere, the future, the past, it's all there. All the different possibilities. Your timeline might be that you are jumping on this train and you're going to that place, but on one timeline, you stop at this stop and you stay there for a few years, and then you move on a bit and you stay there. On another timeline, you just zip straight there. All those are possibilities that are happening. It's like the dimensions. You've got all these dimensions. What my guide explained was, it's like a dimension is a room. And there are lots of different rooms all around the world. But the one thing that each dimension has its own stamp, its own energy. So one might be here, one might be there, one might be over there, but it's all energetically on that frequency band. So you're experiencing something here, but you might also, another aspect of you might be experiencing something there. Same dimension, but different energy around you.
So,
does that make sense?
Yeah, so could we say that, let's say there's an aspect of ourselves that moves into this higher fifth dimensional frequency band, or even sixth, seventh, who knows how high it goes. Will there still be
on Earth, it can only be seventh.
Only seventh.
Right, while we're in a body. And that's only been in the last few months. This has been possible. Sorry.
No worries. Would there still be an aspect then of us that stays in the third dimension?
Could be. Hopefully we'll move it on. Because if your intention at all times is to do what's for the highest good, then you're not going to be staying in the third dimension. And that little niggly bit of you that actually is selfish or whatever, that bit of you is going to want to move out of it. Now, what's going to happen on the planet as I see it? Now, I know there are it's not written. This is part of the problem. People say, well, what's going to happen? And I ask my guides and they say, well, it's up to humanity. It's not absolutely written. But what I see is, hopefully, that the frequency rises everywhere, and then it becomes very uncomfortable for people that are third dimensional. They either take a decision to move to another planet, continue their experience there where they're comfortable, or they shift and the rising frequency takes them up. And so the whole planet will eventually be on a higher level, which will be what we're looking for and wonderful, and hopefully happen sooner rather than later. Because if every single person wanted peace, there would be peace. You know? And everybody that's living in a place which is not functioning, which is a hideous place to live, has at some soul level signed on for that experience, or they wouldn't be there. Their soul would have taken them somewhere else. And whatever excuses there are, the bottom spiritual line is you're where you're meant to be, where you expect to be. I mean, that is the bottom spiritual law, that whatever you expect, that's what the universe will give you. So if 90% of you expects abundance and 10% of you thinks you don't deserve it, you'll not get you won't get the 100%. Our expectations are so deep, so extraordinary. And sometimes my guide said to me, well, you've not got this because your energy wasn't right, you didn't expect it. Make an affirmation. And I make the affirmation and it happens. It's as quick as that very often. It's amazing how it happens. I can't believe it sometimes.
Because when we're tapping into those higher frequency bands, the malleability of reality starts to show itself. In the third dimension, we think everything is so fixed, but as you said, it can happen in an instant.
Yeah. Our lives can change on a sixpence, a dollar.
In the beginning of our conversation, you were talking about how right now the intergalactic councils are going crazy and having meetings and talking about everything that's going on Earth. I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into the purpose of these councils that were formed, and what are some other conversations that they have been having about the evolution of humanity, where we're headed, and maybe what have been some of those blockages that haven't fully allowed us to go in any direction.
Well, you've got a Council of Earth, of course. So you've got 12 beings who look after Earth, and on those there are beings from other planets that come in as kind of advisors, but their interest is only Earth, and they will be watching and reporting back. And then you've got the Intergalactic Council. So those 12 members of the Intergalactic Council are looking after the whole universe. And so they're not just looking after Earth, which is why it's so extraordinary that what's happened on Earth is so unique and unexpected that they've had to take time out and have special meetings about the shift in energy on Earth. And even where we think people are doing awful and silly things, very often they're stirring the energy up for the changes happening that happen. And so what I think is happening is that they are receiving petitions from people, petitions from humanity, and they are listening and taking many of those petitions and bringing them forward and starting to enable things to happen. In the monadic merge meditation, we make petitions every month, different petitions every month, based mostly on what my guide tells me is most needed at that time. And we've had petitions which range from bringing the pure white flame of Atlantis over the whole planet, and that is to give more protection to the planet, to purify everything in the energy field around it so that lower energies couldn't get into Earth to affect us, because a lot of what's been stirred up, what we think, dictators and wars and all this, it's been influenced from outside our planet. Once the pure white flame of Atlantis was there and established, a lot of that influence has stopped. And so what's left is, it always takes time for a residue to work itself through. But we've been making big petitions like that, and petitions for the animals, for all sorts of things to help. And, there are big things that they are trying to help us with now. One is how we treat the animals. People, it's animals, of course, have souls. They have a service mission. They have a soul mission. They are each here for a purpose. They, like us, come from different star systems, different planets, different universes to experience Earth. The agreement when the animals came to Earth and we came to Earth was that we would look after them as equals, but we would take care of them. And of course, that has not happened. And humanity bears a huge, huge lot of karma for that. And the sooner we start to shift that, the better. But there are more and more understandings, more organizations now taking care of animals. The energy towards them, I feel, has shifted quite a bit. People are starting to understand that they are valued members of Earth and that they each have a purpose to be here. I was talking to somebody yesterday about mosquitoes, and they said, "What on earth have we got mosquitoes for?" I said, well, they didn't have mosquitoes in the golden era of Atlantis because the water flowed. Around all the houses, in all the villages, they had flowing water. And then we stopped doing that. We let water sit. So the mosquitoes came in to teach people to make the water flow again. So everything, however bizarre seeming to us, has got a purpose and a reason to be here. And so I think the sooner we start to really appreciate and value and understand the animals, the better.
There's a particular animal that's coming to mind right now, which is related to Atlantis. Whenever people talk about Atlantis, even in like the fiction sense, they bring about the dolphin or the more aquatic beings. What was their role in that ancient time, and now how are they coming back to assist us?
Well, they're the high priests and priestesses of the oceans. They have all the knowledge and wisdom from Sirius, and they now hold all the knowledge and wisdom from Atlantis. And so they then pass it on in the waters. They also help to look after the waters. And the sharks, for example, they come from Mars and the ascended aspect of Mars, which is Nigele. That's the name of it, of the ascended aspect. But that's the peacemaker. And sharks, they come in with the energy of Mars, but they are also in charge of the oceans. They are the ones that keep everything in order and control. And so that's their role. And the dolphins carry the wisdom of Atlantis, and they pass it on to people that are swimming in the waters. I'm sure you've heard lots of stories of healing in the dolphins, giving people healing. And then there are the whales. They come from a very distant asteroid, but they're incredibly high frequency beings, and their sole life mission is to hold the frequency of the waters high. So everyone has a different purpose. The rays come from the Pleiades, so they're bringing healing energy into the waters. So if you swim near a ray, you will be receiving healing energy from them, from the Pleiades. And the animals are the same. They've all got something that they're giving us. Birds, for example, they've got nothing to learn. They're here solely to teach us. And so they teach us how we're living our daily lives. And some of the birds have individuated, like the eagles, and so they are showing us what it's like to have an overall perspective on life. But the little birds, they're teaching us how we live on a daily basis. I thought it was quite interesting when, the same time that big business started to take over all the little businesses, and this was a few years ago, 20 years ago or so, at the same time they took all the hedges out, and the farmers were given grants to take hedges out. And so all the little birds had nowhere to go. And so the magpies, the rooks, the crows, those big birds, they came in and they dominated and they killed off the little birds. That was showing us exactly what big business was doing to the little businesses and the little people. And there is a move again to start putting hedges back in to protect the little birds. So that will start, we'll see that as the birds change.
Mm. One other of those amazing petitions for the Intergalactic Council was that you mentioned for wise leaders with honor, integrity, and vision to step forward and lead the planet. So I'd love to talk about how leadership is going to be shifting and adapting to these new dimensional energies in the future.
Well, the new leaders coming in will do what's for the highest good. They've been trained, they're waiting, but of course, there's no point in somebody stepping forward into a role if people aren't ready for it. So as soon as people are ready, then the leaders who have already been trained will come in and lead. And the new future is about leading by example, leading for the highest good, leading from the heart. There will be very different things expected of leaders in the future. It'll just be a role. There'll be the lights that are holding the vision and the frequency, and also leading by example. That's the biggest thing.
Would those leaders also have activated the 12-strand DNA? And what does that mean for us evolving currently?
I would say yes, but they may not. You can have activated them but not be using them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that there's going to be this period where people are really getting to feel those energies and use those powers again. Because powers are, they've been so misused for the last 10,000 years that people are scared of them. And so there has to be, again, a consciousness shift about using power with responsibility for the highest good.
I'm just like in awe. I just wanted to take a moment because I'm really honoring how clear the visions that you're putting forward are, and how precise and accurate, and they feel expansive within me. And I'd love to just give a space for maybe you to share how you've received those visions in your life, and how that's been holding so much of that future vision of humanity and sharing it with people, activating them in their own way.
Well, I guess it's been a long journey. And it started as I was just a 3D expat housewife, and then I was getting divorced. I had no idea of spirituality whatsoever. I knew nothing. And I was so low, I threw myself into a chair and I said, if there's anything out there, show me. And you've got 1 hour. And an angel came in. Now, I might have known nothing about religion, nothing about spirituality, but I knew it was an angel. And that angel took my hand, took me out of my body. We flew and saw all sorts of things. And then he took me to this hall, which was full of people with rainbow auras over them. And I said, am I down there in the audience as we flew above it? And he said, no, you're on the platform. You're to be a spiritual teacher. He brought me back exactly 1 hour later, and I had no idea what to do with the information. I mean, I knew nothing. And I wrote it down and waited, and I started to meet people. And then through, again, coincidences, I met somebody who had hypnotherapy. I trained to be a hypnotherapist, and I was aware of angels around my clients, but I didn't interact with them. And then 10 years after the first visit, I had another visit. And this time the angel said, we want you to tell... I asked for some guidance about the evening classes I was running, and they said, we want you to tell people about angels. And I said, no way. People will think I'm nuts. This was a long time ago. And they said, well, who's running your classes? Is it your ego or your higher self? Whoa. I said, okay, I'll do it. And I was in the bath. I got out of the bath and 3 angels stood in front of me and gave me information. And that became my first angel book. So that was very, very interesting. Oh, and something else happened. Once you work with the angels and you trust them, magic happens. I was on a morning breakfast show and they said, would I have my aura photograph taken? So I said, of course. And I said to my angel, can you just step in so that people can see your light? The angel impressed itself onto the aura photo. So you could see its golden head, you could see its wingtip, you could see the rays of light coming through, and you could actually see my guide as a bar of gold. And the studio, the phones went into meltdown. It was the most calls they'd ever had at that time. And we're going back 35 years or so. And that was a big shift in my life and also in my trust levels, everything else. And so that the original question. And then just energy started to come in, and then more and more I'd receive the information, I'd receive the downloads, the pictures, and I just carried on writing a book a year for 34 years.
A book a year for 34 years. Let that sit in. Let that sink in.
I know, it's nuts. It's crazy. I don't quite know how it happened, to be perfectly honest. I just
flow state.
And they were always giving me more information, so I just carried on writing. And so then they showed me the vision of the golden future and gave me information about it, and it was just so exciting. But all the way along, like I was sitting in the garden one day just tapping at my laptop, and I looked down and there was a snake under my chair. Now, I love snakes. This was beautiful, but I moved pretty smartish away from the chair. And it undulated right down. But to me, they are telling you that something's going to happen. Next day, the unicorns came in and said they wanted me to write a book about unicorns. Now, I'd not had any connection with them before, but this pure white energy was with me. And I was thinking, that's not an angel. What is it? And I said, no, it's the unicorns. And so that's how it's progressed throughout the years.
Yeah. Wow. So fascinating.
Done it.
Fascinating story. And were you ever able to identify those 3 angels that came to you in the bath and started giving you that information about what's to come for humanity?
Do you know, I have never, ever thought about it. To me, it was just 3 angels, but maybe I'd have to start asking and see what they say. I assume one was my guardian angel, but I don't know.
There's always more to learn. And
the more I know, I don't know anything at all. It's amazing.
And because you fully embodied that state of becoming and being a spiritual teacher, I'd love for a moment to allow you the space as well to tell us what is the most common misconception about the spiritual path that you would like to maybe share with us today.
I think people want to believe in angels. They want to believe in the spirit world. But they just don't trust that it's there. And I think that the minute people say, but how do I know my angel's there? How do I communicate? And I say to them, look, your angel's with you all the time, just waiting to hear from you. You talk to your angel or your unicorn or your dragon, they're all part of the angelic realms, then they will respond and then start looking out for a signal that they've heard you. And then that gives you the faith to continue, the trust. It builds it up. So as soon as people start really trusting, then their lives change because it's so reassuring. It's so fabulous. And it's the same with not just angels, as I say, with unicorns. And the minute you think unicorn, a unicorn is with you. Now, I was just out for a walk And this mother had the child in a pram, and the child threw its toy unicorn out. As she picked it up, she said, "Oh, here's your unicorn." And a flash of white light came right up to them. And I thought, wow, she just thought unicorn. Didn't even notice how unicorn toys, unicorn pictures, unicorn t-shirts, it's all part of the spiritual realms bringing the energies of unicorns to our attention. Same with dragons, same with angels. 40 years ago, you didn't see them around. Now they're everywhere as the consciousness has opened up to them.
The greatest lie, I believe, is that our imagination is not real. Oh. And when we're children, like I used to have, my mom uncovered this book I had as a kid, and it was all about dragons. And I remember as a kid, like very faintly, that I would read this, like I would look at the pages and I would, imagine myself in these realms with the dragons and all these different things. And then all of a sudden society tells you, that's not real. This is real. Look over here. And I feel like spirituality is about opening up again that channel to your imagination, saying, this is real as well.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. And also, just keep focused on the positive. Give absolutely no energy to gossip, to lower things that are in the newspapers, on television. Just don't give it any energy whatsoever, because our thoughts and our words are so powerful. I think people have got no idea of the power of their thoughts. And as you know, we come into Earth with these 7 veils of illusion across our third eye. The first one, the 7th veil, the one that's furthest from the third eye, is red. And that's about taking responsibility for your life. And the next one to it, the 6th one, is yellow. And that is about using your thoughts for good. Your thoughts create. They are master manifestors. Use your thoughts for healing. As soon as you do that, that veil disappears. And the responsibility, the red one, is the hardest one to remove. The minute you say, okay, it's happened in my life, so I've chosen it or I've created it, now I must take responsibility for it. That is the biggest shift for most people.
And because we also mentioned in the beginning that we're about 6.5 years out for this 2032 date that you've set out, and I feel like a lot of these next 6.5 years are going to be about initiation, purging, remembering, activating, preparing for what's to come. And using all that as a recipe, what are some things that you feel people can embody and start to practice in their daily life? Not necessarily do, because I know the 5th dimension is less about doing and more about being, but what would your words of advice be in terms of how to live out these next 6.5 years that we have?
I would say that every time you had to take a decision, say what is for the highest good, and set your intention every day to do and think what is for the highest good. If you do that, you can't go wrong. If you're constantly saying, please let me choose what is the best for everybody. And the other thing that people don't always realize is, if it's for your highest good, it's for everyone's highest good. So if it's for everyone's highest good, it's for yours as well. So if you're constantly focusing on doing what's for the highest good, then you're going to bring that energy into your life, and that is going to move you forward. That'll move you through initiations. As you say, many people are going through initiations right now to make sure they've taken the final exam to get them ready for the new. And if you can just see it as that and stay calm through it, then you move through much more quickly, much more easily. I think that this next few years will also be looking towards the new. And if instead of focusing on any of that nonsense that you see around, you focus on the highest possible, the golden future, the best for everybody, then you're going to be moving very quickly into the higher dimensions. Remember, many people now are moving from the 5th dimension upwards. The 5th dimension is doing everything for the highest good. The 6th dimension is cosmic wisdom, so it's connecting to the universe. And the 7th dimension is all the time connecting to the angels, thanking the angels, working with them, the angelic realms. And that they are in the 7th dimension, and that is what 7th dimension ascension is about. When you do that, your whole life has to flow more easily. And if you have a hiccup, instead of getting all cross about it, say, okay, what am I meant to be learning from this? And then do it. Then you don't have to have it again.
Yeah, beautiful. And Diana, we end every show with a segment called The Final Trio, which are some questions that we like to ask at the end of every episode. And before that, I would love to send people to connect with you, with your work, everything that you've been putting out for the last however many decades. As you said, 1 book a year for 34 years. That's insane. That's so powerful. But yeah, where would you send people to connect with you deeper?
Okay, so there's my website, dianacooper.com. Currently, I'm putting out 6 Merge with the Archangels workshops. Now, merging with an archangel is not the same as connecting with one. It is literally you step your energy and become one with that archangel. You then become an ambassador for Earth or for the archangels, or for that particular archangel. So far we've done Michael, and interestingly enough, 92%, I think that's right, of the people who did the workshop made an initial merge. Now, to do a full merge, some people had to do it again a couple of times, and then they're fully merged. That's for all time. You are then merged with that archangel. It's incredibly powerful. And then we've also done Raphael. I've got Gabriel, Chamuel, the angel of love, Mary, the angel of healing, and Archangel Metatron. He's the pinnacle. And of course, I've had to practice myself again and again to make sure that I'm 100% merged before I can present it. So it's been an awesome experience for me doing this.
An initiation for you.
Well, everything takes you to a higher level. And this is really to get as many people as possible into that 7th dimension so that we can hold the energy for the whole planet.
What has it been like for you to merge with the archangels?
Oh, really, the feeling is just like every cell in my body lighting up. The experience is kind of, wow, now I'm not just calling on Michael, I am being that energy, and I can use that energy that's in me to help other people. It takes you to another level.
Wow. What would Archangel Michael say right now to humanity?
Oh, stand in your power. Be who you truly are. So we are co-creators. It's time to stand there, be authentic, be genuine, and be powerful.
Wow.
I mean,
well, I could add...
I love Gabriel. He puts his diamond round me. In that diamond of his, it's something else. It lights the whole of you up.
Wow. Wow, I could ask you a million more questions, Diana, but we'll say this is chapter 1, volume 1 of our conversations. I would love that. And I'll just ask you 3 more for today. Okay. These final trio questions are special because the first 2 are personalized to each guest. And then the last one we ask at the end of every single show that we do. So I'll go ahead and ask you the first two, and then I'll ask you the final one. The first question: after all your teachings and lifetimes of wisdom, what is the one thing you want to be remembered for?
Well, holding the light for the planet.
You're certainly doing that. Thank
Is
you.
that all right? That's an answer.
That's more than all right. That's what you're doing.
That's what I meant to be doing, yeah.
Right. Beautiful.
I mean, my life mission, I've had 2 life missions because I had my life was, it was supposed to end. I had cancer twice. And the first time, my life was supposed to end. But when I was at death's door, they gave me a life review and said, did I want to go or stay? And I said, I don't mind, whatever's for the highest good. And that happened twice, 2 nights running. And the next I heard was, okay, we've reviewed it. Instead of having a 2-part life, I was supposed to come back twice. They said, you can stay on and have a new mission. Now, my first mission was to introduce 7 million people to their angels. My second mission was to take 5 million people into 6th and 7th dimensional ascension.
And that's the one you're currently on?
Yeah, it's
the
nearly
second
done.
one? Nearly done. Will there be a third?
I don't know, but I'm sure I shall just carry on anyway.
We need third mission, 15 million people to start levitating and fly and
Okay, that's not the most important thing that comes to me.
I'm joking.
Right, and I've got a few ideas. Yeah.
If there was a third mission, what would you want that to be?
Oh, I'd like to remove all the genetic karma from people. That's what I'd like to do next.
Yeah. It's a lot better than levitation.
Well, it's a lot better for a lot of people, yes. I'd love to be able to levitate and just, as I'm sure you've dreamt you can fly.
Yeah.
That's an Atlantean thing. Anyone who was Atlantean very often dreams they can fly.
Yeah.
And in traffic jams, I always believe my car should be able to rise up and go over the other cars. I can't understand why it doesn't.
Soon. We'll be there soon.
Oh, yeah, very soon.
The second question I had for you is, how do we know that we're already on the golden timeline of humanity?
You know, because your thoughts and beliefs are all aligned to doing what's the best for humanity and not just for yourself. That automatically takes you into the golden stream.
It's powerful. The last question that we ask Diana at the end of every single show, we call it the time capsule question. And it requires us to travel out a little bit into the future, around 15 to 20 years. So far past the 2032 date. And I chose out those time frames because I believe that's going to be a time in history when the young generations of today will be stepping more into leadership positions around the world. Yes. And truly, like any great leader that has passed in our history, they've received great mentorship, great guidance, great access to tools, resources, and knowledge. And you are given the opportunity to leave behind a time capsule for these leaders that they will open when the time is ripe for them to lead into the golden future and to truly step into this embodiment of the leadership that we've been talking about. And inside the time capsule, you can include anything that your imagination can conceive of, whether physical, non-physical, but knowing that whatever they embed or whatever you embed inside the time capsule, they will open and be immediately equipped with all the right, let's just call them tools for the lack of a better word, for them to be the best leaders that they could be down in the golden age. So what would you leave behind for the next generation of leaders?
I'd say you have a mission, therefore you have a vision. Hold that vision. Don't let anyone take it away from you, and then do everything that you need to do to bring that vision about.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Diana. This has been a gift, an honor, a pleasure for me to not only learn about all these things that you've embedded in the golden future and in all of your teachings, but knowing that there's so much more to explore with you. You are a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. And I feel like this is just the beginning of many more conversations, and a great start indeed. So thank you so much for your presence and your love for humanity.
Thank you. That was really special.
It was. Until next time.